This is the Health Literacy Show with Dr. Baruch and Heleese. Today we have in the studio Dr. Randy Short with the Million Woman March in the Division of Brothers in Support. We will be discussing Depo Provera and the elimination of the black race.
Woo! All right. That's a hot topic. And the forces were working against us this morning. Good morning, friends and family, loved ones, and those who hate us that we're bringing this information out to the attention of the public. This is the Dr. Baruch Show. Heleese, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing very well this morning.
We got folk calling in already? Goodness gracious. We're going to go for it. Dr. Short.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. How are you this morning?
This is a very important day because this is my mother's Earth Day, my mother's birthday.
That's what's up.
Yes. Happy birthday, Mom.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Mom. Listen, we've got a caller who has already called in. The show just started. Caller, you're calling in from Philadelphia, no doubt.
Yes, Dr. Baruch. This is Brother Amon from Philadelphia. I just wanted to chime in and compliment you on the great work you're doing, and I'm looking forward to listening to the call.
Great. Yes, sir. You can catch us. You can catch us live on elifemedia.net in case you want to catch us on your computer or your smartphone.
And shout
out
to Philly.
No doubt.
All right, brother, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, peace. All right. Dr. Short.
Yes, sir.
Why are you here today?
We're here to talk about the assault on our women, on the African woman, the mother of civilization, the first woman, the original woman, the mother of Jesus, the black woman, the most precious human form on this planet is under attack by powerful, sinister, racist, eugenics-oriented forces, and they're basically using the guise of family planning and contraception as a means to destroy our sisters. And we need to be aware and organize and stop it. And as the Washington Regional Chair for Brothers in Support of the Million Woman March and Universal Movement, as you know, in 2017, we're going to be gathering either in New York or Washington to charge the government with genocide, as well as tell people we're going to raise up the mother of civilization. Our women are at risk, whether it's Sandra Bland or Jenna McMillan or any of the other sisters that you hear about that die in detention, or the mothers who put their children in a school outside their district and they put them in jail. Those are the more open ways in which our sisters are being attacked. But the whole business of eugenics through Depo Provera in particular is a threat to our people. We're at risk. Thank you. Mm-hmm. We're at risk, and in particular our women. And I can't make this any clearer to the men listening. Black men rave how much they love their sisters, and they'll do this, and you better not say anything. In fact, out in Las Vegas, a black man shot and killed another man for not holding the door open at a Wendy's for his girlfriend. Wow. I mean, we'll do that. But yet, when we have corporations like Pfizer or A.H. Robbins or others that are doing things that threaten our women and our future generations, and we're not acting. Brothers need to step up. Black women have been unprotected for hundreds of years, and look at where it's gotten us.
Heleese, you learned about all of this in high school and college, right?
About
all the things that Dr. Short is talking about black women being under attack. There's an assault on black women. That
of course
pharmaceutical
not.
Drug companies are targeting black women and going out of business for being sued because what they've done is taken the lives and the quality of life of women, black women, women of melanation in particular. That's the case, right? Tell me the truth.
Of course no.
Wow.
This is not something we're educated on in our schools.
When did you learn about Depo Provera?
Right before I was doing this interview with the wonderful Dr. Randy Short.
Okay. And what did you learn about it?
I saw that it was advertised as something that's easy, convenient, safe. It's a shot that helps with birth control.
That's right.
But I'm interested to see what I'm going to learn here on this show, because I'm sure it will be nothing like what I learned from just Google researching.
The marketing obviously has changed, and Dr. Short and I were talking about this before we got on the air. We talked about the fact that there was a time when you could look out on the net and you would find all the negative reports, all the negative reviews, all the people that have died, all the people that have been maimed and that have gotten cancer and any number of other illnesses that Dr. Short is going to talk about today, but you don't find that.
It's harder to find. You can find it on YouTube, but that's usually an individual, not a study. I was quite shocked when I said, okay, I'm going to pull up some quick things, bring them in. And most of the stuff there pertained to the Rebecca Project for Human Rights, which is a document I co-wrote 3 years ago. I'm thinking, I'm not a research physician. I'm not that deep. I'm just the person that's concerned. So there has been an effort since this report went out in 2013. And since an interview I did on RT, Breaking the Set with Abby Martin, has gone viral in the last month. It's got 210,000 hits last week. Now this stuff is harder because they're afraid that people are going to wake up. And this is it's a genocidal drug. It's targeted towards black women and Muslim women, or should I say melanated women are the ones targeted for this. And it is a drug that it has so many side effects. It'll take me a good 2 minutes to do just the side effects and a 60-minute program. But it was developed in the 50s, experimenting non-consensually on black women.
Wow.
Then they worked on it some more in the 60s, experimenting again on black women.
There were other companies that owned or that worked with this, right?
Well, initially, whoever did the R&D for it, it ultimately ended up in the hands of the Upjohn Company, the same people that brought you the Dalcon Shield that was killing women and infecting women and destroying women. And the Dalcon Shield is one of the most scandalous contraceptive devices ever used, in terms of them being sued and them being prosecuted all over the world, although it's still legal in other countries, believe it or not, as we speak. And there's a whole conspiracy when something gets illegalized in America. The United States Agency for International Development just buys it in bulk and they dump it on other black people. So the Norplant that used to really mess up women here is still being used in Africa, in Latin America, in the Oceania, and the Pacific region where you have black populations. So you get something like Depo, which is targeted towards, if they're not black, they're poor. You'll find almost no Depo use in Europe except for when they're targeting a black population. Like it's being used in Britain, but it's not being reported, but it's being targeted towards non-white women. It is the contraceptive drug of choice that was being forced on the Ethiopian Jews. The women were told, if you don't take this Depo shot, if you don't take this, we're going to deport you. After these people have fled persecution and hunger and suffering, they take the Depo shot, and let's just do some side effects. I was with a cousin of mine. I can pull out her picture. My cousin, April, I won't say her last name. My cousin took Depo for 2 years. She didn't want to get pregnant, had one child, wasn't married. And once she got off of Depo, first of all, it made her heavier and all these other things. But when she went to get checked, she had lost 50% of her bone mineral density. So she's a woman that's under 35 years old and probably has the bones of a woman 75.
Wow. And
Depo is only supposed to be used for 2 years, but they don't tell people this. In fact, they give it away or push it on the girls in D.C. You're not supposed to get it before you're 18, but they have. I've run across girls as young as 12, which means that you won't develop, your bones won't develop. Depo can cause you to be suicidal. That's what they found when they did one of the non-consensual studies in Atlanta at the Grady Clinic study. they had all these black women committing suicide that were using Depo. And we've had a soaring rate of suicide for black women. Everyone's wondering what, sisters can deal with almost anything. Then all of a sudden there's all this suicide. Depo can cause birth defects in children. It can cause endometrial cancer, cervical cancer. It can cause breast cancer. It can cause heart attack, stroke, diabetes, morbid obesity, extreme anemia, extreme bleeding, sterility. It can change your personality, making a person either violent. It destroys the libido. Can you imagine? We have a high rate of divorce. These men, you may marry someone, you don't want to have a child, and she never wants to put out. It's like, would you marry that person? No, I can't have anything. That's going to contribute to infidelity, to fights.
Wow.
It's like dropping a neutron bomb on our community, and I haven't even done all the side effects. I left out you can have issues with other types of things. For example, it can cause women to lose weight, which is unnatural. And in a lot of countries, say in Africa, where women are a little smaller, this is going to cause more maternal death or more infant death. And it's being pushed and paid for. Who are the culprits? Well, our favorite people, Planned Parenthood of America and the International Federation of Planned Parenthood. And we have the great Margaret Sanger, who said that blacks are human weeds. And she has a book called The Women in the New Race, and she hints that black women shouldn't be allowed to reproduce. And remember, they initially, I think, started in 1916, called the American Birth Control League. And then at the height of the Third Reich in 1943, because Hitler had studied Planned Parenthood's precursor, which is the Birth Control League, they changed the name to Planned Parenthood so they would distance themselves from their Nazi partners who did things like the Holocaust and mass sterilizations. Yes, Hitler's people came to America and studied what was being done to blacks and poor people and took this back to Germany. And interesting, during the Nuremberg trials that occurred 70 years ago this year, the Germans were saying, all we were doing is what you do in America. That's kind of suppressed here. We're doing what you do to Negroes. How are you going to hang me when you're doing the exact same thing that we're doing? We studied with you. And, of course, that's not something that people know. But, yes, the Nazis says, how can we be wrong if we're doing what the Americans do? By the way, the United States is one of the few countries that's refused to enter into certain sorts of international agreements to work on population control. In fact, the Genocide Convention, the Treaty Against Genocide, it is unlawful for any government to fund population control entities. However, even Barack Obama, who all the black people love, no matter how little he does for us, has given about $500 million a year to Planned Parenthood, which targets black people. And most of Planned Parenthood's buildings or offices or abortuaries where you kill babies are within 2 miles of black or brown communities, meaning that, just so you'll know, I think I saw something from the Guttmacher Institute, which studies abortion and contraception. Black women receive about 42% of the abortions in this country. I don't think we're 42% of the people. It would be nice if we were, but we are not. All of these things are working together. In fact, I'm going to go all the way back to the 1750s. 1756, that would be 40 some odd years ago? More than that. Benjamin Franklin wrote an essay, and I would teach this when I was at Bowie, and the essay says, why increase the sons of Africa when we have such a glorious opportunity to increase the lovely reds and whites? And Benjamin Franklin, even before the United States existed, said there are too many blacks here. We need to get rid of them, because when he was talking about blacks, he was also including the Indians, get that, in the black population, as much as they make it seem as if we just got here. That's not true. My DNA says that's not true.
Well, let me jump in. That the work that these pharmaceutical drug companies are doing is documented. This is documented proof. They've probably already been in a courtroom somewhere where it has been, something has been levied against them. Although we know that doesn't mean anything because they can buy themselves or their way out of any situation of that sort.
But they have the government helping them. And see, here's an example. I brought an article from Mother Jones, and I may have to leave it with you. I can print another one. But A.H. Robbins, which made the Dalcon shield, once it got...
For those who don't know what the Dalcon, because that sounds like something you might put on your car.
Oh, it sounds like something from Star Wars.
Yeah, what's a Dalcon shield?
It was an intrauterine, something that you put inside your vagina to prevent yourself from getting pregnant. And what happened with that is a lot of women died. And once it became unpopular, as women complained, although this company was saying how good it was, and they were making great profits, and Planned Parenthood was pushing it. Once it got into a lot of trouble where they got sued, a gentleman by the name of Dr. R.T. Ravenholt, who was the head of the USAID Office on Population, who was an admitted racist, who felt that up to 30% of the non-white women in the world needed to be sterilized to protect the foreign interests of the United States. In fact, he was the one that convinced President Johnson where they had this motto during the Cold War when there was a struggle between the United States and the Soviet Union, better dead than red. His motto, in a sense, was you don't have to wait to kill them. If you can get these babies, if you can prevent these women that threaten the dominance of Anglo-Americans by making certain that they never get pregnant, America won't have to spend as much money in warfare so you could save billions of dollars if you could just sterilize these non-white women who might be in countries where the people want their own resources. So A.H. Robbins, when they got into trouble, Ravenholt was right there to buy up all the Dalcon shields that couldn't be used in America, and they offered it at a 45% discount because they weren't sterilized. So you're going to send unsterilized intrauterine devices to Africa and other places, and, it gets better, instructions were only in 3 languages, English, Spanish, and French, and the instructions were per 1,000. And it gets better. The thing that you insert, that you stick in the vagina to release that, there was only 1 inserter per 100 Dalcon shields, meaning, if we were 100 women, we'd all use the same thing. And they put HIV, AIDS, and all these things on nasty black folks who we've been having sex for 1 million years before white folk got their little time walking the sun to mess with us. Now all of a sudden we're just sex disease monsters.
Right.
And yet they're doing this. So imagine how that contributes to venereal disease and other things. On top of that, one of the things that they would do in USAID is you'd send people to a remote area and you'd put the Dalcon shield inside the girls, and then you'd leave. And if the doctor's 200, 300 miles away, then those girls are sterilized for life.
Wow.
And so it's called dumping. Contraceptive dumping was started, and it's essentially been an unofficial policy of the USAID to send the most deadly, unsafe, rejected drugs to Africa in particular, to our sisters. And sadly, they have partners. And the USAID, again, is a subset of the Department of State. This is the U.S. government essentially doing this in partnership with Planned Parenthood, Save the Children, World Vision. Yeah, I'm talking about World Vision. All of these groups that you think are doing all these wonderful things in Africa are really hurting.
So not that Mugabe is an angel by any stretch.
As far as I'm concerned.
But he at least is saying maybe, and maybe not, but at least is probably limiting this type of invasion. Am I correct?
Well, yes, and there are 2 prongs to the invasion. And I know your audience is going to get mad. I'm not picking on anyone, but I'm going to say this to you. Margaret Sanger As far as I went to her papers, I think she's a closet lesbian. There is a move to push two things simultaneously. They're moving contraception, which is an abortion. By the way, in Nigeria, they just got abortion in Imo State, and they're trying to get that all over. If you want to get governmental funding from the U.S. or from the European Union, you've got to do some abortions. In fact, you were talking about India with me on the phone. India was the first country where President Johnson, when they had that big famine in the middle 60s, said to Indira Gandhi, we won't give you one grain of anything until you promise to sterilize so many millions of your people. You've got to start aborting babies and sterilizing people, or we will not help you with even surplus food.
Heleese, you got that in history class, right? They taught you about, no? Johnson was before your time, so that would have been history for you.
But he's a friend of the Negro. He really loved people, but Johnson was the one who really started dumping money into Planned Parenthood and also sending this to Africa and to Asia and other places. And Planned Parenthood, what you need to understand, Planned Parenthood is a partner with Emily's List, which funds all the black female Democratic candidates in Congress, which is why you'll never hear any of them, no matter how much mouth they have, they'll never talk about this. They're also partners with the Leadership Council for Civil Rights. So all your civil rights groups, your black activist groups are all partners with the Eugenics program. And I'll give you a quick anecdote and I'll stop. The National, I think it's a Coalition for Black Trade Unionists, if I have the right name, had a meeting, their conference in Richmond. I was a guest speaker, and I talked about Depo. And initially, I noticed people all checking because they wanted to make it out that I'm making this up. And it turned out that it was true. And later, when I was at the luncheon with the famous black trade unionist by the name of Mr. Bill Lucy, I asked Mr. Lucy, is there anything that we can do to at least discuss this? And he said, well, we'll have to consult with our partners. And I says, really? You mean your white and Latino and LGBTQ partners have fiat decision to say no, that you can't talk to black women about what's good? Why? Has there ever been anything that they asked you for that you have fiat on or that you would say no to? I know you wouldn't dare do it to a Jewish group. So you mean to tell me these are partners, but yet they would tell you don't help your own sisters? Do you need such partners? And they just sat there and looked at me, and I said, well, look, I said, Mr. Lucy, what happens when the Koch brothers start funding you guys to be against voting rights? Will suddenly all the black groups, NACP and everyone else, stop believing in voting rights and affirmative action because they got some money from some white people? Where is this going? Anyway, I can just tell you, Mr. Lucy went to check to see if I had lied or not. He told me I told the truth, but I can assure you, nobody in there, these black trade, went back and said, we really need to look at this. And since I spoke to them in 2013, last year, one of the preeminent medical magazines or journals, scholarly peer-reviewed journals, is Lancet. Lancet has found that there is a link between HIV transmission or contraction and Depo Provera use, which means, and they had one number, but we've seen numbers, it's as high as you're 16 times more likely, as much as 16 times more likely to contract HIV/AIDS if you use Depo Provera.
Aren't you more likely to contract all STDs and STIs because of what happens to the lining of the uterus?
When you use this Depo, you're opening yourself up to endometriosis, to every possible thing. It strips, what it does, the hormones, it strips your epithelium, the inner vagina of the woman. It removes the mucus protection and other things there. And that means that the woman literally becomes a vacuum to suck in infection, to take it in. They were asking that question, why are African women so susceptible to HIV/AIDS? Remember that question? As if our women had something wrong with them. And in reality, Depo Provera is the drug of contraceptive drug of choice for South Africa. Every country that has this big AIDS thing, they're injecting them with this stuff. And in Indonesia and in other places where you have high rates of AIDS, you've got Depo. If you have high rates of AIDS, you have Depo as a contraceptive drug of choice. And they know this, but instead they rather say something nasty about black women and black men getting together.
Heleese?
I at a loss for words. This is this is crazy to me, and it's disgusting, and
It's the world we live in, and we have to be strategically intelligent in our response to somebody who's decided that our lives are so us being alive is such a threat to whoever this population is. When you realize that we're that much of a threat, we have to be strategically intelligent about how we respond. And I say this not in a joking way, I say it very seriously, that it may be, Dr. Short, maybe you need to start telling people, rather than all of the statistics that you've laid out, because everybody had access to that, everybody knew it. We heard about Depo years ago. We're hearing about it again. We've heard about it for years, about all the negative things that were going on with Upjohn and the Nor plant. We heard all about those negatives, but people we're still, applying this as contraceptive. Then I look at it and I say, well, what's going to get black women's attention? I tell you what, Dr. Short, if you start promoting Depo as it's going to make your butt smaller, I bet you folks will start giving it a second look.
Well, one of the things that you could tell someone is that Depo does cause congenital heart defects in babies, as well as causing them to have, get this, elongated or supersized clitorises. So you're going to have a girl come out and she almost looks like she's got a woody like any of the guys. So people are wondering why their children are acting like they do, or some of it is what people put in their bodies. You're putting hormones in your body that don't belong there. What is that going to do to your child?
I think the damage that is going to be done to the child, which they want to have aborted anyway, I still don't see it having the same kind of impact as you telling a black woman in 2016, your butt is shrinking. You know what? Your butt is shrinking as a result of this Depo. I know a young lady who cried for days because she had lost weight and was trying to get fit and trim and lost her behind. And all of a sudden, this became like the biggest issue in her entire life. And I said, for real? But, you think about it, and that's the world that we live in. So being strategically intelligent, I'm going to add that to my conversation. Unfounded, scientific, and unscientific, and all the rest of it. Depo will make your butt shrink. I'm not going to get another one of those shots.
Well, the only thing I can say to you is that there's some research on hormonal birth control. This is the other thing that is really, it's like a complete attack on a woman. The hormonal birth control suppresses pheromone production.
We've got a caller. We're gonna take this caller, Dr. Short. Good morning, caller. You're gonna need to turn down your radio. We'll be right to you in just a minute. Turn down your television or computer or radio. Okay, go ahead.
I was just saying that hormonal birth control suppresses pheromone production, meaning that if a woman's taking the pill or whatever, she's not going to draw men like she would if she didn't. So if all these women are taking hormonal birth control, which suppresses their natural essence as women, it's a turnoff to men. In fact, they took a pride of monkeys, which was like a tribe of monkeys, and they got an alpha monkey, one who was like knocking down 3 at one time, and they injected his favorite with Depo. He stopped dealing with her. He went to the other 2.
Wow. Let's take this caller. Caller, you're on board with us. Please state your name and where you're calling from.
I'm calling from Washington,
Oh, that's
D.C.
Mom. Hi, Mom. Happy birthday.
Well, thank you, Randy.
Hi, Mom.
Hi.
Yes, you have a question or comment for our beautiful son here?
Well, I have an encouragement.
Yes.
I think in an era where there is so much that is counterproductive and counterculture and counter-contrary, if you will, that he has taken a bold stand and dared to make a difference in speaking the truth to power. Power to truth, if you will. And I just want to encourage him to keep on keeping on. But even though I'm from another era and I might be defined as a dinosaur, such much of what he has stated and alluded to is provable and, in fact, true. So it would be great if there are those persons that are out there that could really listen with their hearts as well as their heads and listen viscerally. They would be better off. I thank you for allowing him to come on your program to share an enlightenment to the world, and want to thank you for allowing me this time.
Great, great. Well, thank you very much, Mom. And,
Much love to you.
Happy birthday to you.
Great son you have here.
And I was just telling that monkey story.
Yes.
They gave the monkeys number one, Depo. He dropped her.
Yeah.
He started hitting the other two. They injected those two. He went and got another one. They injected the entire pride with Depo. You know what that monkey did? He and all the other monkey males began to have homosexual activity.
Wow.
Where's that study? Heleese, you writing that down?
Blackgenocide.org. My buddy runs that website, but he has that. But they did that. So where they're telling people you're born this way, on one hand, and at the same time pushing all this hormonal birth control. Even the fluoride and things that they put in the water bother with us and our balance. You know, there's natural fluoride in the water. You don't need to put all this other junk in there.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So they're pushing all of this stuff. It's as if they can't mess you up one way, can't get you locked up in jail, then I'm going to biochemically attack you as a male because all the women are going to be on something. You wonder why you don't like girls. You like girls. They're not, that essence isn't coming off of them to draw you in. Remember the Eggo waffle commercials and the thing like the waffle and the aroma would come and make the thing go crazy? Women are supposed to make men go crazy. When these guys are going to yawn, can it be that they understand this? That they literally want it to break us down, where in fact, Depo not only suppresses that, but it makes the women big. I was one place, and a woman, she had more stomachs than a herd of cows with spandex on, looked like a bag of grapes. Brothers aren't necessarily turned on by that much. You know, you wanted to have one butt, not five. I mean, where do you start? So you understand that these things, and it makes women hairy, gives them acne. The things that you would look at in a woman, imagine an overweight, hairy, mean woman with acne who's also balding but has a beard, because it can do that. It's called hairy-sus. That's one of the things that it'll make you hairy like a white, white folk look like, they need to get a wax. They need to get Johnson's wax about 10 times. Imagine you see a sister with hair and she's kind of balding and acne. You're not feeling that. You're really not.
So so there's an intentional attack that's clearly planned thoroughly, and it's having so many different effects to where it's completely blocking reproduction of our people.
Absolutely.
And essentially killing our people.
Killing us. And we're going to have Dr. Chappelle. We were talking to her, who's an expert on sex trafficking. You mess up the man and woman, they fighting because she's on Depo. She don't want to have no kids. He ain't making enough money because he's catching hell being a man in the labor place because he's black. Your kids end up in foster care where they get raped or turned out or whatever. Then they end up sold into sexual slavery. And all of this is going on, and to me it seems to be quite comprehensive that they want to break us down. And we've got to understand that fighting against a genocidal assault like this, you can't be all about you. We've got to band together. I don't care if you're Muslim or Hebrew or whatever. We've got to find a way to unite and defend ourselves and support each other economically and socially and spiritually, because aside from the Creator, all we have is each other, because they'll bring over 20, 30 million people who think like they do, even if they look like us.
Right.
Is it safe to say that outside of Depo Provera, all birth control is unsafe and can have these similar effects?
Depo is the worst, but there are other things that have messed people up. Mirena, if you've heard about that, that's no good. Plan B is no good. They're being sued. Literally, the only thing that I would say, and I'm a man, and forgive me, sisters, I'm not trying to be a OBGYN, because I'm not. Low-dose birth control pills, 50 micrograms or less. Low dose are the best. When it's above 50 micrograms, it's in trouble. In fact, it's interesting, the companies that make the 80 micrograms, because you get estrogen overdosage, which can create problems for a woman there. And these things can mess with your vitamin A, your vitamin B6, your folic acid. This can hurt you, and if you're breastfeeding, it can hurt the baby. There are other things that the birth control pills can contribute to. So low dose is preferred, but the high dose ones, they're dumped in Africa. The USAID buys them and they dump them on our sisters over there.
Wow.
So, what is the response, Dr. Short? So we've got a group of women who might be in Heleese's category who may not have known about Depo, and it's not a bad thing. Depo is doing very clever clandestine work, and they don't want people to know about what they're doing. They don't want people to know this negative, storyline that goes along with what people would otherwise think is a good thing in 2016. Birth control, the cessation of life after you have, or the inability to create life inside of your body, which is the most bizarre thing that I think I've heard. That what is the purpose then of reproductive organs if you're going to shut the reproductive organs? It's like putting on a pair of glasses that you can't see through, but you're going to wear them.
Well, fashion statement?
Yeah, maybe. Or so that you don't see how bad it is, what you're doing is. Well, anyway, but what do we do? What needs to happen now?
Okay. I thought, until just a few months ago, I thought we were going to have a class action suit to go after Pfizer, which is now the parent company for Depo Provera. And the famed attorney Willie Gary had my cousin, the famous human rights defender Elaine Riddick, gathering women who had experienced problems with Depo into a class action suit. And suddenly, without any explanation, since Mr. Gary decided not to do the case, so we need to find some attorneys that are not intimidated or too busy or afraid or whatever it is to sue, and to find out how we can gather, because the information, at least for some, to do the kind of radical work that, say, a Charles Hamilton Houston and black attorneys used to do. Nowadays, Mr. Gary should be close to a billionaire. These people are making more money than these black attorneys, but whenever you come, they want all their money up front. White folks will take a contingency, even for a black case. We've got to find some attorneys that would be willing to form a research and legal action group, and we need to sue Pfizer and possibly Bill and Melinda Gates and whoever else is doing this. And also, Prince George's has a huge international community. Some of the attorneys in various countries in Africa need to partner with us, and we need to sue, and we need to get this drug moved. We need to sue Planned Parenthood, which has Depo up on their website, and the people that they have are black and Latino. They don't have no white girl using no Depo. And we need to sue them. And in addition, if we could get a group of people together in particular sisters, to go after the black women in the Congressional Black Caucus. I know they get money from this group called Emily's List, which was started by a woman. I think her name is Evelyn Malcolm. She's a big white lesbian, looked like Jethro off the Beverly Hillbillies. She created this group, and they fund. You have to be for this crazy abortion and same-sex marriage agenda, or you don't get money as a Democratic candidate. As much as I love Donna Edwards, the only money I really saw that she got in the millions was from Emily's List. So you see, we're going to have to find a way to put people in office, if not in office, to put pressure on those that are in. That no matter how much money you get from somebody, you don't look the other way when someone puts a blade in our back. I'm certain that you can get a Jewish politician to take contributions, but I can assure you he's never going to be willing to be in the Holocaust denial, no matter how fashionable it is, because he's a Jew first. We've got to show these people, these elite black people, like the outgoing chancellor of D.C. public schools, where they were pushing Depo Provera in D.C. schools. When you're a black official, elected or otherwise, we're going to come get you. We don't care who you are. I don't care if you have 6 figures, you live in a big house, you live out in Perrywood. So what? What about the kid that lives in Suitland? Shouldn't they know? Don't they have the right to equal and fair health care, or they don't? And we have to get tired of successful black folks. It's not enough for them to sit in a position or to be elected. They're supposed to serve us, or, be a libertarian. If you just want to help the other people, join one of those parties. Don't claim that, we Democrats, we for black people. Really. We really need to get angry with people, and I need to include preachers. We have, forgive me, there are a lot of Negro ministers. I mean, they all want a jet and a mega church, and they don't deserve half of that. When they have an opportunity to use that pulpit to educate and to talk to the sisters in their church, you see them with babies, you know they're not married. What are they doing not to have the 5th baby by the 8th man? We should be having this discussion. If you can ask for their money, barbers, when you go in a barber, cut your hair because he's a barber. If a preacher's a leader, he's leading. He shouldn't just be a religious fundraiser for himself. Okay, that's how I feel about that.
Okay, so that's what we do on the legal side. That's what we do on some. What about when I'm talking to a group of women who have decided that they want to do birth, or they want to use birth control? Or what is the message? Let me put it that. What is the message to the women that are considering birth control, considering Depo as an option? What do we do? And then for those who've taken it, what do we do to alleviate some of these awful side effects, even though they've stopped taking it? What do we do?
They come to everlasting life. I guess they need to detox, Doc.
Yep.
You've got to get that out of your system. And also, they can call my mother up. She's with the D.C. Mental Health Counselors Association. A lot of people need to have their whole system, their spirit and their body cleansed. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, what I would say to some of these sisters, versus birth control, what happened to marriage? What's wrong with?
Well, the birth control happened to marriage, because you said that with the pheromones or with the hormones.
Yeah, well, that's part. Yeah.
So now women don't want a man don't want what they see as a woman, because right.
I think some brothers still they gonna lay that pipe. I mean, that's one thing. It's one thing they're gonna do. So everybody hasn't gone over to the other team. So ladies in fact, a lot of ladies on the other team too. They're the biggest competition. I used to work at Woodrow Wilson. The boys had to fight with the hard girls for the prettiest girls in the school. I've seen that with my own eyes. I also saw that at Lane College. That was deep. So trust me, there's enough blame on that. But we really need to look at marriage. Mm-hmm. We really need to look at stuff like the rhythm method. That worked. Okay. In fact, let's be honest, there are folks who get pregnant on Depo. There are folks who get pregnant on the pill. One of my ex-girlfriends got pregnant taking the pill. I know that girl's religious, and she still got pregnant. So why not treat birth as if it is a gift from God instead of a penalty. Oh, man, I shouldn't have, I wish I hadn't come that time. Oh, my God. And it's as if birth is a punishment. We should stop treating sex like it's a video game, like it's simply leisure. You may not have money to go anywhere else, but we need to understand that when you lay down with someone of the opposite sex, for all those folks who are being taught there's no such thing as boys and girls in school, when you lay down with someone of age of the opposite sex, it is possible for conception to take place. And that's not an accident. It's what's supposed to happen. It's there for procreation. This idea that this is the magic stick, the slippery slide, the golden goats, this secular, carnal, vulgar approach towards womanhood, towards motherhood, towards women, we need to get away from that and to stop looking at the man as if he's an ATM machine. Half of them aren't. So I mean that's a misnomer from the first thing. We need to look at who we're with, why we're with them, and we should be looking for a life partner so you can be as wild and woolly as you want with that person. And if conception takes place, well, thank God. Wow. Another Dr. Baruch, another Heleese, someone that's going to carry on my genetic historic legacy. Thank you, God. Not, man, my condom broke again. Those Asians, why did they make them so thin? You know, I've heard people talk. I remember being on the P Street bus, the G2, and the guy was talking about how he wasn't, he had a friend that went to jail so he wouldn't have to pay child support. We need to stop seeing children as a curse, because in reality it reflects the hatred of self that people who hate us want us to have. When did we go from seeing a black baby as being a part of the Creator blessing us to carry on, to seeing it as, man, I got to deal with this for 18 years. Heleese, girl, I thought you were taking care of yourself. You lied to me. Well, how I know it's mine? I'm going to see you on Maury Povich or Judge Judy. I mean, this insanity.
It really is. And we definitely need to educate ourselves, just as I say, when it comes to the food that we eat. Anything that we're putting into our bodies. Ladies, don't listen to the surface value of this is a safe and convenient and easy drug that may possibly have some side effects like nausea or a headache. Dig deeper before you start putting anything into your body, and especially when it's something that goes against what you're naturally supposed to be doing. It's obvious that it's going to have some sort of side effect when that's not what your body is supposed to do.
And the FDA never, ever, it's been used in the United States legally since 1992, although my best friend that I went to McKinley High School with was on Depo in 1980. Like 11, 12 years before it was legal. The FDA has never approved Depo. It was approved by the World Health Organization, which are bureaucrats, not research scientists. And the reason the FDA repeatedly in the 70s refused to allow Depo to be used as a contraceptive is because they did shoddy, botched, ineffective research. They also found out that Depo caused endometrial cancer in monkeys, which they had never seen before, and it caused breast cancer in dogs. You have to understand the FDA established a protocol for drugs in 1938, which the drugs had to be proven that they were effective. In 1963, they had to be proven that they were safe, and then there was a subsequent protocol that you had to go through animal subject tests, dogs and monkeys, and then people for a certain period of years to know that Depo has never passed the FDA's regulations, which means the drug that they say is unsafe. And the other thing you have to know, several years ago, Depo Provera got a black box warning, letting people know that it's a carcinogen, which means it causes cancer. And they don't want it out, but one of my associates, Dr. Leanne Franchi, who does a lot of breast cancer surgery, when I spoke to her 2013, she says, look, Depo causes breast cancer. If the women use Depo, they have a good chance of having both their breasts cut off. Okay? Use it, you're risking your breast.
Wow. We've been listening to Dr. Randy Short here on the Health Literacy Show with Dr. Baruch and Sister Heleese. And this is mind-blowing, it's mind-opening, it's empowering, and hopefully all of that is happening right now inside of you. And as we continue down this road, we pray that you do your research and you understand the significance of what is being shared with you. For many of you, for the first time, you're hearing about this. Please do your research, and then after you've done your research and you're comfortable with what it is that you've read and understood, and make sure you don't research with the company that's making money off of selling the product, and make sure you don't research with the companies that are looking forward to seeing you erased off of the planet, because if you do research with them, they're going to tell you, take Depo like you're eating lollipops. So we have to be careful where we research. And maybe, Dr. Short, you can tell us where they can find more information on this correct and true information on Depo.
I'm going to point them to the Rebecca Project for Justice and Human Rights. We have a report that I helped to edit with Kwame Foso. It's called Depo Provera, Deadly Reproductive Violence Against Women. So there is a Rebecca Project for Justice and Human Rights. Now, we should have a website. I mean, last time I checked, we did. But if you cannot get it, I will just email me. I'm pretty easy email. W as in water, Randy, R-A-N-D-Y, short, S-H-O-R-T @gmail.com, and I will send you this, and you can read our report that was presented to Congressman Lacy Clay from St. Louis at the Congressional Black Caucus in 2013. This is one of the more critical reports, but there are others. And if you have a question, certainly email me. I will happily share with you anything that I can and direct you to Elaine Riddick. And if we have any attorneys out there, we need a sister who's mad, who's got an axe to grind. Don't go after the old boyfriend that broke your heart. Let's go after Pfizer, okay? Please be in touch with me.
A much better target.
Much better target. Let him go. Nobody want him anyway.
Right,
You're better off without him.
Right.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Dr. Short. And we greatly appreciate the energy that you brought today to the program. And we look forward to continuing to bring you back on, that you would empower us as you have with information so that we can live life more abundantly, and we cannot continue to be in a space where we're destroying our quality of life, our lineage, and the future that our great and great 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 grandmothers and fathers had in their minds for us.
This is a call to action, so definitely play your part in doing what you can, to save yourself and decide that your life matters and the life of our people matter. So this has been the Dr. Baruch Show, Health Literacy Show with Dr. Baruch and Heleese. Thank you again, Dr. Randy Short, for joining us. Join us tomorrow for Not On My Watch Show.